In my previous life, during the 7th year of dating my girlfriend, I died in a sudden flood. My soul didn't dissipate. It stayed with her. I watched her wander about in a daze, completely shattered by the news of my death. She cried her heart out and later clung to our memories until she passed away. In her final moments, hugging a photo of me, she whispered that in the next life, she wouldn't let go of my hand. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on that day of the flood. With memories from my past life, I managed to survive this time. We even got married. Yet, Tina, who loved me so much she was ready to die for me in my last life, cheated on me 5 years into our marriage. That happened just as I found out about my tumor. I found out in the hospital lobby. There was a guy who seemed hurt, and Tina was helping him. They ran in from outside, causing quite a commotion. She was shouting for people to make way, looked panicked, and didn't notice me. As she passed me, she accidentally bumped into me. I lost my balance and fell. My test report got trampled by her. A nurse helped me up, picked up the report, and muttered, "Your boyfriend's precious, but other people's family is precious too." 7 years of dating, 5 years of marriage, no matter how brief the encounter, I immediately recognized her. The boy, I didn't know him. Maybe he was a colleague, a friend, or a random stranger who got hurt. At that moment, I trusted that she loved me and wouldn't betray me. But something drove me to follow them secretly. At the orthopedics department, I saw them again. They went into a consultation room together, and the door wasn't fully closed. Through the gap, I watched Tina. The boy hurt his ankle and, looking pained, sat on a chair. A necklace around his neck, drop-shaped and sparkling, caught my eye. Tina sat side by side with him, holding his hand and softly reassuring him that it was just a sprain and wouldn't hurt. The boy was scared, so Tina hugged him. The doctor smiled, teasingly saying, "Your little boyfriend's quite sensitive." Tina laughed and wiped his tears, comforting him gently, teasing. The boy pretended to be annoyed. "Tina, if I'm bothering you, then don't mind me." Tina just shook her head, affectionately saying, "Even if you're bothersome, I still like you." Such simple words, yet they eased the boy and amused the doctor. They looked like a couple deeply in love. I was the only one, standing there, feeling like a thief peering into someone else's happiness, completely unsure of what to do next. I never thought Tina would betray me. We met when we had nothing. Both of us were orphans, abandoned by our birth parents. Our first meeting was in our first year of high school. She was being mocked for being an orphan. She clenched her fists and didn't dare to respond, looking timid and scared, much like I used to be. So I stood up for her. Back then, people called me a troublemaker, and teachers saw me as a lost cause. Anyone who dared to mess with me would regret it. I told Tina, "So what if we're orphans?" The director at the orphanage was like family to us, and the other kids were like our siblings. We should never feel inferior. If we couldn't take it anymore, we should shut them up with our fists. Tina had never seen a boy so fierce. She just stood there for a long time, then awkwardly made fists and threw a few mock punches into the air. She asked me if she was doing it right. I laughed and told her that if she couldn't fight, she could just find me. I'd help, given we're both orphans, for free. At first sight, I was drawn to her beauty. Later, we found solace in shared experiences. From high school to college, from superficial looks to genuine hearts, we went through so much together. We ended up falling completely in love with each other. If I hadn't died in that flood, perhaps we would have been happy for a lifetime. At least, that's what I always thought in my past life. Unlike Tina's quiet nature, I hated feeling confined and always wanted to see the world's most beautiful places. That was my motivation to work hard, to travel everywhere and set my free spirit loose. But during one of those trips, I encountered the flood that took my life. Everything happened so quickly. The bridge collapsed, and the fierce waters claimed many lives, mine included. Upon hearing the news, Tina searched for me tirelessly for 7 days. When my body was finally found, she sat there covered in dirt and broke down crying. Later, she repeatedly cut her wrists, saying she didn't want me to be alone underground, that she wanted to join me. The hospital visits were countless until the orphanage director convinced her otherwise. urging her to live on with my memory. Tina did survive but became a shell of herself. She donated all her earnings to the orphanage, kept everything aside, and clung to my photos for several years until she died young. Knowing this when I was reborn, I fought hard to escape and dodged the flood that should have ended my life. I gave up my dream of traveling worldwide, choosing instead a stable life. I stayed by her side, never leaving. I thought we'd live this ordinary and happy life. But just 5 short years later, the Tina who once loved me so much cheated. This knowledge left me not only sad but also hopeless because I had found out I had a tumor. Initially, when I started coughing up blood, I thought it was just a health issue. Fearing an illness, I didn't tell her immediately. I nervously went to the hospital alone, got my blood tested, and met with the doctor. The doctor looked at my records and, with a somber look, told me, "I'm sorry, you need surgery. If you wait any longer, it'll be too late." In that moment, it was pure despair. I couldn't hold it in and wanted to cry right then but held back because today was our 5th wedding anniversary. Tina mentioned she had a surprise for me, something I'd really like. I thought I knew what it might be. It's a watch. I've wanted it for so long, but the person never agreed to sell it to me. Last month, Tina took some time off and went abroad. Later, the person sent me a message, subtly mentioning that my wife loves me a lot. They decided to part with the watch and wished me happiness. But now that watch is worn around someone else's neck, not just that necklace. Now even Tina isn't mine anymore. I got home and sat on the couch from day to night. The steak on the table gradually cooled down, but the person who should have come back never did. At 11:52, Tina messaged me, saying her job suddenly required a trip abroad. She told me not to worry and that we'd celebrate our anniversary when she returned, saying she'd bring a gift when she got back. But not everything can have a redo. I blew out the candle and threw the cold steak into the trash. Maybe I was prepared for this, so I wasn't too upset when I saw that message. In fact, I was a bit relieved, glad I knew beforehand. So I didn't make a candlelit dinner myself, but ordered takeout from a well-rated restaurant using Tina's card. If she isn't coming back, then the takeout ends up in the trash, just like her. The orphanage director said I've been stubborn since I was a kid. When I want something, I do anything to get it. But once I don't care as much, no matter how much I once loved it, I can let go without any attachment. Glancing at the time, it was midnight. I sat on the couch, looking out towards the balcony. The dark sky showed nothing. I remembered contacting a doctor after coming back from the hospital. He said he'd be on duty these days and that I could give him a heads up whether I wanted to take the opportunity or not. So I sent him a message. I asked if, should I choose to stop treatment, there could be a lighter way to handle it. The doctor replied quickly, saying if my mind was made up and there were no other issues after the checkup, the fastest way to recover could be scheduled for the next Tuesday, involving complete organ removal. If I was sure, I should visit the hospital. I gently touched my chest. Body, forgive me. Without a happy home, maybe leaving to find another family wouldn't be so painful. Before I could even prepare for surgery, I got an invitation from my alma mater. Tina and I didn't attend the same university, not even the same city. We could only meet on weekends. Every time, she'd bring me a grape cake, and I'd give her the unique osmanthus-flavored milk tea from my school. Tina's always been a bit spoiled, loving sweet milk tea and hating wind and sun, hardly enduring any hardship. So I can't forget how, when she learned of my accident, she dug with bare hands for 7 days and nights, her 10 fingers ruined, bleeding mixed with dirt. It hurts a bit to remember because the Tina in my memories loved me so much. But now, this relationship has fallen apart. I accepted the school's invitation, but I didn't expect I'd see them again at school. After delivering my speech, a boy stood up holding a microphone. He asked, "Hi, I'm Eric, a junior from the journalism department. Today, my question isn't really about our major. I wonder if you'd answer?" I nodded, seeing the challenge in his eyes. So he knew who I was. Eric gave a slight smile. "I heard you were once a famous journalist, then left for love and returned to family life. After 5 years of marriage, are you happy? Aren't you afraid of the 7-year itch?" I gripped the microphone, trying to control my emotions. I was a rebellious student who feared no one. After a near-death experience and watching Tina grieve for me, I decided to hide my sharp edges and become a gentle and stable man. But that doesn't mean I'd tolerate blatant provocation. I just chuckled, relationships aren't set in stone. As for that itch, a woman with family responsibility wouldn't cheat. If it happens, I'd say she fits well with her lover. I paused, looking at Eric, who went pale. Eric, as fellow men, do you think being the other guy is honorable? In front of everyone, he couldn't say, the unloved one is the other guy, or he'd be roasted. So he gritted his teeth, nodded, and forced a smile. Eric couldn't resist adding, but if that day came, the husband couldn't keep his wife's heart, so he's useless too. I smiled, better than being the other guy, wanting what others have had without caring if it's dirty. Those who clean up after others are often proud. Tina isn't much either. Spreading hands, she got lured away quickly, like throwing a bone to a stray on the street. They wagged their tails. I feigned shock and covered my mouth. My bad. Dogs are loyal, but cheaters are trash of society. Dirty to even look at. I met Eric's eyes with a smile. My pride wouldn't let me show weakness before him. Strangely, arguing felt familiar, as if I should never have changed myself for Tina. But we both lost this battle. Tina's infidelity means she didn't love me, so I didn't win. Eric, delighting in being the other guy, faces inevitable scorn. Both failed, but I have no regrets. I love Tina sincerely and passionately. She betrayed me, so I'm not in the wrong. They are. After the speech, I walked out the back way. Whether by fate or plan, I spotted Eric and Tina. She had a huge bouquet of roses. Bending down, I moved closer to Eric. I pinched his cheek with my hand, but Eric looked like he was terribly wronged. Tina held him and softly comforted him over and over. I didn't move from where I stood. Eric seemed to glance at me and then looked at Tina. Loud enough for me to hear, he asked, "Why are you so nice to me, Ryan?" Tina wiped the tears from his eyes, speaking as gently as ever. She said, "You forgot? I told you before I met you, I kept having this dream. There was a boy in the dream who fell into the water. I tried so hard to save him, but he disappeared. In the dream, I was so sad, almost to the point of wanting to die. Then I met you. The first time we met, you accidentally fell into the water. You really looked like that boy. Maybe you're that boy from my dream, and perhaps it's our destiny to meet." So that's what it was. I stood there, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Having memories from a past life, I knew this wasn't just a dream. It was real pain from the previous life. Is her memory slowly coming back? Tina said she loved that boy in the dream and then fell for Eric. But she doesn't know that the boy in that dream was me. But does it even matter now? Betrayal is a done deal. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit my stomach. I couldn't help but bend over, clutching my stomach in agony. Eric laughed. He hugged Tina and then looked at me defiantly. He asked Tina, "So, who's more important, me or Ben?" Tina didn't get a chance to answer because I suddenly collapsed. People gasped, some were worried, and some were protective of me. Others turned to look right into my eyes, filled with panic. Then, I didn't move. I watched her run towards me. I really want to know, someday, when she realizes the boy in her dream was me, what her expression will be. Tina ran to me, looking panicked. "Ben, why are you here?" At that moment, with intense stomach pain and a pained expression, passing classmates could not help but gasp at the scene. But Tina just happened to turn around, hearing the noise, and found me. She didn't see my pain, just looked panicked, glancing between Eric and me. "Ben, it's a misunderstanding. Actually, today I have..." She didn't finish her sentence because, not far away, Eric suddenly fell to the ground. A scream left Tina no time to continue explaining, and she immediately turned around and ran to him. "Eric, are you okay?" Tina helped him up. You could see a severe scrape on Eric's knee, red and swollen, with blood dripping down, looking serious. Eric shook his head, locked eyes with me, and shed 2 more tears. "It just hurts a little. Can you take me to the infirmary first?" Tina's back went stiff, probably because she remembered her husband, standing not far away, watching her mess around with another man. She turned around, looked apologetic. "I'll take Eric to the hospital." We'll talk when I get home tonight. Tina didn't give me the chance to speak. After saying that, she picked Eric up and left without looking back. This whole time, she didn't notice that I was bleeding. I took a deep breath. The pain in my stomach was getting worse. I could feel my consciousness slipping away. The pain made it hard to stand. I grabbed a passing classmate and asked, "Hey, could you call 911 for me? I can't take the pain anymore." The organ was removed, just like that. The doctor said my body was weak, and I was mentally stressed out, so the tumor spread quickly. He tried to comfort me, saying I'd be better after recovery. But I wasn't really feeling bad. I had already decided on the surgery, and now, because of an accident, they took it out. It was just a different way to get what I wanted. The bond between Tina and me? Completely gone. Thanks to the surgery, I spent a night in the hospital. I didn't get any calls or messages from Tina. This means she didn't go home last night and stayed with Eric. Being young and resilient, I was discharged the next day. I didn't bring much to the hospital, so I left with only myself and nothing else. Maybe it's bad luck, or maybe even fate has had enough and wants me to make a decision. At the hospital corner, I bumped right into Tina. She held a blue water cup and carried a bag of breakfast. But she was wearing different clothes, not the white shirt from yesterday. Some things aren't meant to be overthought, or it'll just bring more unhappiness. But we ran into each other anyway. She froze, trying to hide the water cup and breakfast as if she realized it was childish. Between panic and guilt, she fumbled several times in just a few seconds. Finally, she just smiled nervously. "Ben, what are you doing at the hospital? Is there something going on?" I was so angry, I laughed. Really, I laughed out loud. Couldn't help it. I told her, "Oh yeah, lots of fun. I came here to play." "You believe me?" Tina's face turned serious. "Stop being sarcastic. Let's discuss our problems properly. Go home. I'll be there by noon, I promise. And the other stuff, let's deal with it later." Why wait until later? In a rush to bring breakfast to your lover? The hospital hall was already buzzing with people. Folks love a good story. Hearing the word lover made them perk up, turning back to catch the gossip. Tina's ears turned red under their stares. "Ben, it's not what you think. Eric and I are just friends. Don't make things dirty. When did you become so unreasonable? Every woman caught cheating tries to play the victim." I was ready to speak when Eric appeared, limping out of a nearby room. Despite wearing hospital clothes, this college kid just couldn't hide his youthful energy. Eric came up to us, smiling like he couldn't hurt a fly. "Ben, you're misunderstanding Tina. We're just ordinary friends. Meeting at school. This is about my studies. If you're not happy, take it out on me. Don't embarrass her in front of everyone. Okay?" Such an understanding little lover. No wonder she likes him. But right now, I've made a decision. I'm divorcing Tina. Eric is only a sophomore this year. If his classmates and teachers found out that this seemingly upright guy is involved with a married woman, you think he won't be ashamed at school? I spoke softly, but loud enough for both of them to hear. As soon as I finished, I saw both Eric and Tina's faces turn pale, especially Eric, who suddenly looked nervous and scared, not as composed as before. He directly questioned me, "You're gonna mess with me at school? Ben, that's so vicious of you." Tina chimes in too. "Yeah, Ben, why do this? Eric and I are just friends. Don't go ruining a student's reputation. Wouldn't you feel that's too harsh on your part?" Harsh? If I hadn't stopped hitting people for years now, and if I wasn't feeling weak due to poor health, I'd probably smack her. But hey, there's still time. Opportunities will come. I took several deep breaths. The wound still throbbed a little. I didn't dare to breathe too deeply, just calmly watched Tina, exposing her lousy lies. 5 days ago, I was at the hospital and saw you help him in admitting to the doctor that you're a couple. Yesterday, you said you were going on a business trip, but then you went to the school instead and embraced Eric. Tina, I'm not blind. I can see. If you just admitted it cleanly, I might have seen you as a bit honorable. But you had to spin lies, calling me malicious and evil. Don't you find that disgusting of you? Saying that much, I felt kinda sad. Someone I once loved so deeply, someone who'd go through hell for me, whose life seemed dim without me. In the end, with no more hurdles, our bond turned worthless. I tried hard to keep my emotions in check, to appear calm. Tina, we've come to this point. Why keep hiding? Maybe I had been too blunt. Tina, who was denying all of it seconds ago, couldn't help but fall silent. She knew every word I said was true. She looked up at me, all her arrogance gone, replaced with guilt and feelings. She opened her mouth as if to explain, but I cut her off. I don't want this to get ugly. Since it has come to this, let's divorce. As soon as I said it, I saw Eric smirk, while Tina hesitated a bit, looking a little incredulous. Ben, we've known each other for so long, and you just want a divorce. Do you have no heart? What else could I do? Would you rather I stay married to you, while you keep a lover on the side? Maybe wait until the lover gets bored, and find a new one, while I sit at home waiting, crying every day. Would that make me a kind-hearted person? Then I made one last request. In this marriage, you're at fault, so you should leave without a dime. Is that a problem? I'm not stupid. People come and go. But the savings I've worked for over the years, the comfortable life I built, should I just give them away? How could I allow that? Eric, without thinking, retorted, gripping Tina's hand tightly, then started to instigate. Tina, you've worked hard for so long. How can you give away all your money? What about our future? I chuckled. You're only interested because she's good at making money, right? So, stick with her and start from scratch. Or are you just planning to leech off her success, unwilling to strive alongside her? Putting someone in a tough spot, they can only grit their teeth and nod, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Just like now. Eric gritted his teeth, forcing a laugh. I love Tina as a person, not for her money. Even if she leaves empty-handed, I'd help her rebuild. I just feel sorry for her, marrying a money-loving man like you. Money-loving is better than knowingly being the third party. I whispered back. Then I pulled out my phone from my pocket and replayed yesterday's recorded video. My demands are twofold. First, divorce Tina. Second, Tina leaves without a dime. If these can't be met, I can't guarantee where this video will pop up. Pushed to this extent, Eric seemed to lose control, trying to snatch my phone, but I dodged easily. Eric, you did it, so face the consequences. Don't think you can make excuses later. We all studied journalism. We know how dangerous public opinion can be, and that, even without confirmation, rumors can destroy lives. And deep down, you both know if you've done anything unethical. Don't you? It's not coercion. It's the cold, hard truth. They are at fault. With the video in hand, Tina, even for Eric's reputation, had no choice but to concede. Go to the civil affairs office to file for divorce. Unsurprisingly, there is that 30-day cooling-off period. Tina, I don't care if you wander off or crash at some guy's place. From now on, our home is mine alone. Nothing to do with you. And after 30 days, we'll finalize the divorce. Never to contact again. Never see each other. I'm not one to linger or keep contact with exes. When I decide it's over until I die. Tina didn't speak right away. She glanced over at Eric still waiting in the car. Her gaze was complicated. Ben, does it have to be this way? She asked with a sadness, like somehow I was at fault. You cheated, and now you're asking me this? Don't you see the hypocrisy? I'd rather she bluntly admit. Her feelings shifted to Eric, and willingly leave empty-handed, never to cross paths again. That way, I'd respect her guts, for at least not dragging things out. But now, I only felt more disappointed. Maybe I shouldn't have helped her out that summer. When she was bullied, shouldn't have involved myself. After an unpleasant parting at the civil affairs office, I didn't go home. Instead, I found a hotel and planned to stay for a month. I even hired a nanny while I was recovering from major surgery. Even though I'm young and resilient, I still needed to take good care of myself. The hotel allowed cooking, so the nanny came at scheduled times every day to cook meals and clean up. I just lay on the bed each day, scrolling through my phone, checking out views from around the world. My long dormant heart started to feel alive again. If I had never met Tina, I would have been traveling the world now, roaming the mountains and rivers instead of mourning the loss of my love in a room. Eric, perhaps trying to make his presence known since I filed for divorce without much fuss, added me on Instagram. It was a small account, no direct indication it was him, but my sixth sense told me this mysterious, suggestive account had to be his Twitter. June 24th. She was feeling down today, but with me around, she managed to smile. Picture, half of a smiling face. June 25th. The weather was great today. I wanted her to take me to the amusement park. She mentioned a fear of heights, and I reassured her by saying I could protect her. June 26th. We stayed in bed all day while it drizzled outside, watched a ton of movies. Picture, a mess of a bed. June 27th. June 28th. July 24th. Tomorrow everything ends. After that, it's just us, no one else. Picture, a peace sign on the couch. I took screenshots of all those Twitter posts. When I got to the last one, my hand paused slightly, and I couldn't help but zoom in on the picture. I clearly recognized the layout of the room behind him. It was rather amusing, actually. That was the home I shared with Tina. Every brick, every tile was chosen by me. And that couch, those carefully selected furnishings, no one knew them better than I did. Right now, Eric was lying on my couch, in the spot where I once slept. It made me feel a bit sick. I ran barefoot to the bathroom, hands over my mouth, retching but unable to throw anything up. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Tomorrow's the day our divorce becomes official. To make this permanent, I haven't told anyone, just waited calmly for dawn and our meeting at the Civil Affairs office. Tina was punctual. She wore a white dress today, hair meticulously styled, clearly prepared. I smiled. So formal. But divorce and marriage can't happen on the same day, right? That sarcastic tone drew looks from bystanders. Tina pursed her lips, staring at me. Until I strode into the office, she suddenly called out to me, "Ben." I paused, and she continued, "I never wanted to divorce you." How laughable. She betrayed me, and now claims she doesn't want a divorce? Does she think she can have it all? Tina stepped in front of me with determination. We've been together since high school, supporting each other for years. I love you deeply. As for Eric, I'm at a loss on how to explain. It's more of an obsession. Without responding, I can't eat or sleep, constantly restless. I smirked coldly. Why hide it if she was truly helpless? A bitter smile crept in as I closed my eyes briefly. Perhaps there's still a sliver of malevolent root in my heart. Tina recalls more about our past life. Maybe she'll remember everything soon. When she realizes her love isn't by her side anymore, what will she think of today's words? I'm curious, also anticipating. First, I need a divorce. Without this legal binding, I'll just be Ben, not Tina's husband. The divorce procedure wasn't complicated. Soon, I had a divorce certificate in my hand, freeing me from Tina's wife status. Leaving the office, I got into Tina's car. She hesitated and I said, "I'm going back to the house we lived in." "You're going back too, right? The agreement says all assets are mine. So that house is mine." Yet I found out Tina had let Eric move in. When I noticed, Tina quickly explained, "Eric had a spat with his roommate and he's not from here. He doesn't have much money, can't stay at a hotel. I thought you wouldn't be back, so I let him stay. I did tell him he has to return to school today." She said it so naturally, oblivious to any wrong. Before, I might be hurt. Now, there is just anger beyond disappointment, extreme anger. I couldn't help but rub my brow. Perhaps I had been blind, loving someone unworthy. This lifetime wasn't meant to correct regrets, but to show me that my relationship with Tina was destined to be short-lived. Don't force it. So I stayed silent and followed her back to that house. I couldn't call it home anymore. Ringing the doorbell, Eric answered in my pajamas, holding my stuffed toy, bouncing to the door. "Tina, you're back." "Huh?" He stopped abruptly, surprised by seeing me, and asked directly, "What are you doing here?" Per the divorce agreement, Tina left with nothing, and the house was naturally mine. I said coldly, "As the agreement states, this house is mine." Hearing this, Eric's eyes immediately teared up. He looked at Tina nervously. "Tina, I called my roommates, and they don't want me back. I have nowhere else to go. If I can't stay here longer, I'll be on the streets." Now all Tina's assets are mine, including our combined properties. She's left with nothing, needing to rent a place, likely less comfortable than here. Eric was fighting for a place, eager to prove himself. Tina looked at him, her gaze hesitant, and eventually couldn't help but say, "Ben, I gave you everything. Money, the house. He has nowhere to go now. You just let him stay a few more days. Just a few days." Okay. I agreed without hesitation. This straightforward answer shocked both Tina and Eric. But I didn't do anything. I just went back to the bedroom, saying I had to grab some important documents. Then, under their gaze, I calmly left. And then, I went to Eric's university. It was my school too. I knew the place like the back of my hand. I knew when the office was busiest, and when classmates would be around. I had the video from that day, and everything caught by the hidden camera I put in the room. Within an hour, they came and went from the room, hugged and kissed. The evidence was solid, but I didn't say a word. I just looped the video on my phone. Then, I sat silently on a chair. People flowed in and out of the office. Someone would always come to see the advisor or handle paperwork. I held up my phone, making sure they could see the video, as well as a medical report and my medical proof. The dates were all clearly marked. By the time I reached the airport, Tina called. As soon as I picked up, she was yelling, "Ben, I never thought you'd be this vicious. You promised me that if I left everything behind, you wouldn't release the video. But you went to school and exposed Eric, ruining his reputation. You're a person too. You know how important reputation is. Don't you think you went too far? And planting a camera in the room, that's an invasion of privacy. I can sue you for that. And Ben, you drove Eric to jump into the river. Did you know that? If you have any conscience left, go to the school. Say it was all just your wild guesses, to help him restore his reputation. Or else, I'll call the police." I rubbed my ear. Her yelling was so loud it hurt. I calmly said, "You've already signed the divorce papers. Legally, the house is mine. So why can't I install cameras in my own home? You broke the rules by getting intimate in my bedroom. I accidentally saw it, of course I had to speak to the school. Also, I did promise you, but I changed my mind. What can you do about it? Want to call the cops, Tina? Go ahead. You should know who's more at fault here. If you call the cops, who do you think will end up worse? In this relationship, I'm not the guilty party. I don't have to take any responsibility. I made a call and told the other end. I needed to send an express package, the same-day delivery kind. One package went to Tina, with 2 documents, a tumor diagnosis and a surgery report. Dates clearly stated. I'm sure she'll remember. Another, more important, was a USB drive sent to Tina's company rival. Then, I turned off my phone, grabbed my luggage, and headed to another city. I've been thinking for a long time. Finally, I made this decision. The bond between Tina and me deepened because of the flood. Similarly, as a spirit in my last life, I followed Tina and remembered most of what happened in the following years. For instance, in 2 months, this city would get hit by a rainstorm, and then a flood would quietly arrive. Not as bad as the one 5 years ago, but still causing buildings to collapse, resulting in casualties. Knowing the when and where, I came to this place, wrote several anonymous letters, ensuring my own safety, and sent them to the local emergency management office. I researched a lot to make these letters look official, giving them early warning and helping them prepare. I suggested relocating people in advance to minimize casualties. In any case, I did my best to save those people. Meanwhile, Tina called me many times. I didn't answer. I also didn't read any of her messages. After being together for so many years, I understood her character well enough. So the express delivery I sent on the day I left would keep her conscience restless for the rest of her life. Guilt and a restless conscience. That's why she kept calling and messaging saying sorry. In the end, it was just to make herself feel better. Why should I give her that chance? I'm a bit spiteful, unable to forgive. I only hope she never finds happiness. But I didn't expect we'd meet again. The day the flood hit, official warnings were issued early. But some people refused to leave. When help was needed, I found those who were trapped, remembering my past life. I stayed awake for days and nights. In the end, when I thought it was almost over, I found the last person I was rescuing was Tina. She was clinging to a piece of driftwood, sputtering and calling for help. She was holding a child, wearing a blue dress. The child clung to her neck, crying in fear. I felt spiteful, tempted to ignore her, but I couldn't pretend not to see the child. In these 5 years, I learned how to swim and picked up a few survival skills over these days. I managed to save them. At the moment of rescue, Tina hugged me. Then, I remember everything. Outside the hospital, Tina stood in front of me. She hadn't changed clothes, still soaking wet, looking miserable. When did I start remembering? I interrupted her. Tina opened her mouth, then couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. She said, I started dreaming about it a long time ago. Then I met Eric, and thought the person in my dreams was him. Later, when we were about to divorce, I dreamt entire nights, but I could never see the face clearly in my dream. After the divorce certificate, Eric jumped into the river. I followed and jumped. That night I had a fever, ended up in the hospital, then saw the medical records you sent me. That night I dreamed of many things. I still couldn't make out the face, but I was sure the boy in my dreams wasn't Eric. After that, memories slowly awakened. This city was supposed to flood around this time. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or if it was real, so I came to check. And then the flood happened. I was swept into it and saw that child. She was wearing a blue dress, just like in my dream. At that moment, your image appeared in my mind. She paused, then suddenly laughed, as if mocking herself. Then, I had so many thoughts racing through my mind like I've lived a whole lifetime. This life I have now was something I wished for so long and finally got. But in the end, I still managed to lose it. When Tina said this, her tears flowed, with hate and sadness swirling in her eyes. She tried to reach out and touch me, but I pulled away. Tina, I also thought this life was a chance given to us by fate. But maybe this is fate telling me that living and dying apart is our inevitable end. At death, we're remembered as those wonderful versions of ourselves in each other's memories. But now that we're alive, that sacred love we once cherished is being tainted by you. Tina, it's not like everything can go back to how it was just because there's regret. There's no future for us. When you claimed to be Eric's girlfriend, when you made excuses to hang out with Eric while I was sick, when you stuck with Ben even when I coughed up blood, and many other nights I knew nothing about. Those disgusting nights that I can never swallow. Listening to my words, Tina's tears fell instantly, and she shook her head in denial. Ben, I just chose the wrong person. But from the beginning to the end, I've only loved you. So what? Does that mean I should forgive your betrayal? I can't. I can't be kind and forgiving to someone who betrayed me. So I told her, because you betrayed me first, I want you to leave with nothing. I want you to lose your job, watch all your hard work crumble. You have nothing left. That's your punishment. And all your pain and regret now, you're going to remember every night for the rest of your life. Tina, I won't forgive you. From now on, you will live your life in pain and regret. I've decided to continue chasing my dreams, to travel the world, and see it all. I have plenty in my savings to support my dreams, without drowning in pain. From afar, I occasionally heard news about old acquaintances. Tina and Eric eventually broke up. I caused a fuss at their school, which, added to Tina's already tense relationships with her roommates, made the whole thing explode across campus. It even became a trending topic locally. Eric was eventually advised to leave school and went back to his hometown. The boy who stayed up countless nights studying just to escape the mountains and change his fate returned to where he began. As for Tina, she had rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in business. Now someone capitalized on the situation, and she was crushed. Making a comeback was tough, if not impossible. Later on, I caught some vague news about her. Apparently, someone got back at her, stabbing her with needles and leaving her covered in blood, scaring passers-by. After being rushed to the hospital, she wasn't saved in time and became paralyzed, a complete waste of a person. But none of this is my concern anymore. I'm in another country with spring flowers in bloom, watching rivers flow and mountains rise. My life feels like it might just be beginning.